Hey there guys, are you looking for an easy way to make some cash with your 3D printer? Well, you're in luck because in this video, I'm going to give you an in-depth tutorial, step by step, on how to make customizable 3D printed name tags. Why name tags? Well, I'll explain it to you. Name tags are used in multiple industries, including military and law enforcement. They're used in hobbies like airsoft, paintball, cosplay. With the rising demand for personalized and unique items, custom name tags could be a very lucrative side hustle. You can sell them online, you can sell them to your local police department, and you can sell them to your local airsoft enthusiasts. If you're interested in learning how to do this step by step, stick around and I'm going to show you exactly how. So let's dive in. Okay, so let's get down to business. The first thing that you're going to need is a 3D printer. It's probably best to have a 3D printer with a direct drive extruder because we're going to be printing with TPU, which is a flexible filament and is usually easier to print on with a direct drive extruder. If you don't have a direct drive extruder, a Bowden tube is also going to be okay, but just take into account that you might have to do a little bit extra post-processing. You know, picking off boogers and all the rest of that stuff. The next thing that we're going to need is 2 separate colors of TPU. Now, I usually go with 95A shore hardness. The reason I go with 95A is because I've tried a whole bunch of other hardnesses. 95A works the best. The prints come out the cleanest, and the material flexibility is really good. The next thing you guys are going to need are some Velcro strips. A strip that's about 25 millimeters in width, which is about an inch for you Freedom Unit guys. Obviously, the length is going to depend how many name tags you guys are going to want to make. And the last thing you guys are going to need is some JB Weld epoxy. This stuff works magic, sticking TPU to Velcro. It's unbelievable. Awesome stuff. The next step is to show you guys how to build the 3D model in Fusion 360. So let's get into it. So just a little disclaimer, I've been using SolidWorks for years, but for the sake of this video, I use Fusion 360 because this is a program that I assume most of you are using. So let's jump in. First, I'm going to pick the top plane to start a sketch. Then I'm going to get the center rectangle tool and start a rectangle out from the center. Once it's done, we're going to take the sketch dimension tool and give the rectangle a length of 85 millimeters, which is 3 inches. And a width of 25 millimeters, which is an inch. At this point, I'm going to round the edges of the rectangle with the fillet tool. You don't have to do this, but I like to. Once we selected all the edges, we're going to give it a radius of 5 millimeters and finish the sketch. At this point, we're going to extrude the rectangle and open a new sketch on the top surface. Then we're going to choose the text tool and write, let's say, Jack Sparrow, just because I finished watching Pirates of the Caribbean. And once that's written down, we move the sketch to the center and finish and extrude. And just for a nice effect, we're going to give it a rim by starting a new sketch on the top surface of the patch, choosing the offset tool, selecting the border of the patch, and offsetting the rim by 1.5 millimeters. Close the sketch and extrude, and we're done. Now we save the project, and once saved, we can export it as an STL file to whatever folder we want. Okay guys, so the next step that we're going to look at is slicer settings. By the way, if you guys are enjoying this content, I would truly appreciate a like, comment, or subscribe. Anyway, let's get back into the slicer settings. Okay, at this point you could just pop Jack right into Cura and pick the TPU preset setting. If you don't have a TPU preset setting, I've added a link for the material plugin for Cura in the description, as well as all the rest of the stuff I'm using right now for this project. Once you have the material set in Cura, all we need to do is make sure Jack is facing up. Once Jack is nice and sliced, we can check and see what layer the base is done, and only the text and our rim starts to print, because this is the layer that we're going to want to do our filament change. First, we got to go up to our extensions tab, post-processing, modify G-code, add a script, and pick filament change. At this point, I would pick the use firmware configuration option. If you're using Clipper like on the Sonic Pad, you're going to have to add a printer config to allow Clipper to read the M600 Marlin command. If you want me to explain that in a separate video, let me know in the comments, but let's get back into it. Once you pick the firmware option, we're going to tell the printer to change the filament level at whatever layer you have. But for this tutorial, it's going to be layer number 11. And once that's done, we reslice and send it off on its way to the printer. Okay, so at this point, once we're done all that stuff, all we got to make sure is that the TPU is dry. What do I mean by that? Well, TPU is thirsty filament that loves to suck moisture out of the air. And once you plug that filament into your extruder, it's going to start popping and spitting out all kinds of boogers all over your print if the filament isn't dry. And then you're going to be spending half an hour on each name tag picking out all the little boogers. Once you're sure that your filament is dry, you hook the filament up to your printer and let it rip. Once the first 11 layers is done, your printer's going to stop and retract the filament. Once your printer retracts the filament, you come in with the second color that you want the letters to be in. You plug that filament in, and then you hit the play button on your 3D printer and you finish them up. So once Jack is done and 3D printed, the next thing that we're going to do is post-processing. Post-processing is essentially removing all the little boogers and strings that are still attached from the 3D printer and whatever moisture wasn't evaporated before you started printing. And then we slap on some JB Weld and stick the Velcro on the back, let it dry, and you're done. If you guys like this video, you might like this one next. Take care for now. Bye-bye. See you in the next one.